Yo, what's going on guys? Arekkz here, welcome back to another video for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, and today I want to talk about a topic that, on the surface, might seem a little daunting, but in reality, when you break it down into its core components, it's actually pretty easy to understand, and more importantly, very useful. I am of course talking about frame data. Understanding the frame data of your character, even at a very basic level, allows you to know which of your moves are safe to use, and which ones are likely to leave you vulnerable. If you're new to the series, then you might be someone that makes frequent use of your smash attacks, only to find that your opponent swiftly dodges those and then follows up with a punish, sending you hurtling towards your doom. Understanding which of your moves are safe will mean you can better decide what you should be using at any given moment, and that in turn will result in you getting better at the game and securing more of those attacks. So with that being said, let's dive into the video. Welcome to another Super Smash Bros. Ultimate workshop. If you do find this helpful and you do enjoy this video, then a like would be super appreciated, and be sure to comment down below and let me know if you guys have any questions. Also, if you haven't entered our giveaway for the limited edition Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Nintendo Switch, then be sure to get that link in the description box down below. Now let's get started. In its most basic form, frame data is the number of frames it takes for any given move to play out. Super Smash Bros. Ultimate runs at 60 frames per second, so that means that one single frame is 1/60th of a second. When talking about frame data, there are three main words you need to keep in mind: startup, active, and recovery. Quite simply, startup frames are how long before the attack animation connects with your target. Moves with fewer startup frames are by nature very quick to pull out, and can often be safe options. Meanwhile, moves with longer startups still have great value, as you'll see in a moment, but they need to be used at the right time. We'll go over some examples in just a moment. Active frames are the portion of the animation where the move physically connects with your opponent and does damage. Typically, this will be a relatively small percentage of your overall frames, but different moves have different active frames. A move that has considerably more active frames means you have more opportunity to land the attack on your opponent. Again, we'll go over some examples in just a moment. Then finally, you have your recovery frames. This is the part of the animation where your attack has ended and you are returning to a position where you can then react or perform another action. During the recovery window, you're unable to attack or block, so a move that has a large recovery window will leave you vulnerable for a long time, often allowing your opponent to punish you. Meanwhile, a move with a short amount of recovery frames will invariably allow you to get out quickly and react. So startup, active, and recovery, the three main ingredients of frame data. The training room is actually really useful for testing this stuff, since you can select the option to play moves at one frame, and then you can simply tap the L button to play through it. So let's take a look at some examples. If we take Link's standard jab, the A attack, it's actually a 3-hit combo, but if we just focus on the first hit for the time being, this is a 24 frame move. The first 7 frames are the startup, as you can see here. We'll use yellow as the startup indicator. Following on from there, we then enter the active window, that's green on this bar, and as you can see, it's a relatively small portion of the overall frames. Then following the active window, we enter the recovery window, let's use red. Now, whilst I'm recovering, I can't do anything, but on the 24th frame, the animation ends, and at this point, I'm able to do something else. Shield, dodge, attack, that sort of stuff. Now, if we instead look at something like a smash attack, no doubt a popular move if you're new to the game, they look pretty powerful, and they typically yield great results if you can land them. If being the key word. For Link's forward smash, it has around 16 frames of startup, so that's just over double the standard jab. You then have a relatively small active window, and then the recovery period is pretty substantial, bringing the entire move to around 50 frames. The same can be said for his dash attack, a powerful move, but similarly with a large degree of setup, around 20 frames, and an even bigger recovery window, with the entire move itself coming in at just under 60 frames, nearly an entire second to pull it off. And while that might not sound much, if I use this move in combat and miss, it leaves me incredibly vulnerable, so my opponent can then follow up. An example of a move with a longer active window would be something like his neutral air, or nair to use a more commonly known term. This is actually a relatively safe move. It starts up relatively quickly and remains active for a large number of frames, meaning all whilst the attack is like this, I can land the hit. It's partly why it's a good option to use when edgeguarding as Link. Of course, being an aerial attack, you will also need to factor in landing lag, but even so, this move has a relatively short recovery period, so I can use this to apply pressure to someone even if they're blocking, and quite often get out if I need to rethink my strategy. Now obviously there are a ton of characters in this game, and I'm obviously not going to go through each and every one of them in this video. So the question you're probably asking is, what if I don't play Link? How does this help me? Well, the way you apply this to your chosen character is to build an understanding of all of your moves. I'm not saying you have to go to the training room and start counting each individual frame like in this video. That would be crazy. But you can apply these general principles to begin building an understanding of your available options and then use this to counter your opponent. Take someone like Sheik. Sheik has an incredibly fast jab. The startup is just 2 frames. This is what we refer to as a 2-frame jab. And if you remember from earlier, Link had a 7-frame startup on his, or a 7-frame jab. If these 2 characters attacked at the same time, Sheik will enter the active window faster, meaning Sheik hits first, and in turn wins the battle. The hit would then interrupt Link's move, and Sheik could then follow up. But in the same vein, if Sheik misses that attack, and her opponent is, for example, charging a smash attack, assuming they have only just begun, and the startup frames for the smash attack are longer than the recovery frames for her jab, then she will still have time to get out before the attack lands, meaning it's a relatively safe move to use. However, that's only one part of the puzzle. That's how to apply it in an offensive manner, but what if the opponent is shielding? You've probably heard people throw around the term safe on shield before, but what does that mean? Well, when you attack an opponent that is shielding, they're put into what is known as shield stun. This is a period of time before they can react from shield, whether that be to drop their guard and go for an attack, roll out, or go for a grab. In this scenario, using Sheik again, if we use her fast jab to attack the opponent with their shield up, you'll see that Sheik is able to get out another jab before her opponent is able to react from guard. That's because she's able to recover and get out her next attack before her opponent can react. That means this move is safe on shield. Meanwhile, if we applied that same logic, say with Link's jumping attack from earlier, using this on a shielding opponent is unwise since the recovery is so long, so even with the shield stun, the opponent is still able to recover and react before Link can recover, and thus this move is not safe on shield. So having an idea for which of your moves are and are not safe on shield means that when you're in combat and your opponent is bringing the shield up, sure you can grab them out of it, but you also know what attacks you can use to apply pressure. However, there is one additional piece to this puzzle, and that's Parry. A move that is typically safe on shield, likely won't be safe following a parry. If you've seen our beginner and our intermediate workshops, then you'll know that by dropping your guard just as you're being hit, you can parry an attack. Not only do you not take damage whilst doing this, but you, as the player that parried, instead gain a frame advantage over your opponents, meaning you have a window to punish your opponent. So whereas being attacked in a shielded state puts you at a disadvantage, being able to parry an attack gives you an advantage, hence why learning to parry reliably is incredibly important. With this knowledge, you can then hop into the training room and begin testing out your moves and begin working out which options are useful for a given situation. It's typically why jabs and tilts are good options in combat given their relatively quick startup and overall frames. Meanwhile, moves like smash attacks are more often than not safe for times that you know you're going to land that hit. That being said, while smash attacks are often notorious for having long startup frames, thus leaving you vulnerable, the other thing to keep in mind is distance. Take someone like Richter, for example. Sure, he still has a relatively long startup on his smash, meaning he's vulnerable at this time, but given the range of this attack, if he was attacking from a distance, then this move could actually be deemed relatively safe, given that even if it was blocked, an opponent at range would unlikely be able to follow up, unless of course they're a ranged user themselves. So as you can see, it's all about jumping in and messing around with your moves, finding out which ones work, which ones are fastest, which ones are safe, which ones are your available options, and which ones you can of course lean on when you have those openings. Now, there is of course another layer to frame data, but for the purpose of this video, we're going to leave it at the basics: startup, active, and recovery. Beyond that point, there are additional things to factor in like hit stun, freeze frame, shield stun, and landing lag. These can be additional factors that will ultimately influence how you react to a given situation, but that's a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole, so for now, we'll leave it here. If you found this interesting and would like to learn more and would like for me to expand on this, then be sure to let me know in the comments down below, but having a broad understanding of the basics will at least allow you to look at your available moves and assess which ones are the best used in a given situation. Applying that should then make you much safer in combat, in turn allowing for you to better handle what your opponent throws at you and capitalize on any openings that present themselves. As always, if you guys have any questions, by all means let me know down below, but otherwise be sure to keep it locked for much more Smash Bros content. Thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to check out some more awesome stuff from us here at Arekkz Gaming, then you should definitely try to catch TwoSixNine and Paradise Central streaming 6 days a week. You can find a link to the multi-stream in the description box down below. They play a wide range of games, and what's more, we also have the end game store. By watching their streams, you earn currency, and you can redeem that currency on the endgame store for really cool prizes. Those can range from things like games, comics, and figures, all the way up to controllers, capture cards, and even consoles. So definitely drop by and become part of the community. Of course, if you enjoyed this video, then make sure you're subscribed and be sure to click on that little bell icon to turn on notifications so you don't miss our next upload. You can watch more videos by clicking on the options here. But once again, thanks very much for watching, take it easy, catch you next time, peace out.